This is an iScaf tutorial on how you can draw a shadecloth in 3D. Firstly, I will draw a line to represent the shadecloth to be attached to the building. On the Param or Plan panel, we can click on the line option and turn Ortho on to ensure the line is straight. Draw this line close to your 3D scaffold as we want the shadecloth to be just next to the scaffold. This line is going to determine the position of the shadecloth, so we want to draw it as close to the building as possible. As another form of annotation, I can draw a squiggly curved line to represent the position of the shadecloth. On the iScaf Ribbon Utilities panel, click on the Insert block, click on the navigation icon, then go to the iScaf, iScaf 10, Parts, Bonus, Metric, Shadecloth, then select the shadecloth you'd like. This will be represented by a squiggly line as you can see here. You can move, stretch, rotate, and scale the shadecloth to be the size you want by selecting the shadecloth, clicking on the blue square, then hitting the spacebar until the action you'd like to perform. In this case, I'd like to rotate it first. Then I'll move it to the right by the straight line we drew earlier. I'm now going to close the Insert block window and scale the shadecloth to the right length by clicking on the shadecloth, then clicking on the blue box and pressing the spacebar till we get to the scale option, just as we did before. Next, I will build our drawing to 3D by clicking on the Build 3D icon in the Build panel and saying yes to save to the drawing sheet, then right-clicking to build all to 3D. This will enable us to have a better view of the shadecloth along the scaffold. I will also create a section by clicking on the Create section in the Build panel. Just like we did before, I'm going to create another shadecloth right next to our section as well. I will click on the shadecloth and use the spacebar options to move it to the right position. Please note that with iScaf, you can manually add shadecloths to the plan, section, and 3D drawings, and you also have the option to either add the shadecloth to just one of them or all of them. Next, we need to create a new layer so that we can be able to modify the properties of the shadecloth. Create a new layer by going into the Format tab, then Layer. Select this icon, which allows you to create a new layer and give it a name. We'll call it Shadecloth Layer. Please note that all this representation of shadecloth are optional, so you may choose one or all of them to annotate your drawing however you like. Please note that creating a layer is optional. You can use an existing layer such as the red symbols layer, green symbols layer, black text, red sim, or sim blue, and other color layers. Regardless of the color name, they can be set to any color, so the shadecloth may be any color. Next, change the percentage of the transparency depending on how transparent you'd like it to be, with 0% being not transparent and 90% being very transparent. In this case, I'd set it to 10, then close it. Next, I'll need to change the property of the Shadecloth to use the new Shadecloth layer that we have just created. To do this, select the Shadecloth and right-click. Go into the properties and set the thickness of the line to be about the same height of where you want your Shadecloth to finish. This is usually the height of the outside of your scaffold. Change the layer for the line object to Shadecloth. I'm now going to change it to a side view by typing in DV. Alternatively, on the View panel, use the normal rotate options to view your Shadecloth from any angle. Now that we have completed that, I'm going to change the visual style from wireframe to realistic for a more realistic view. As you can see, the Shadecloth has correctly been drawn. Thank you for watching.